one.
Guys around the world, welcome back to another episode of the Guy Stuff podcast. I am your host, Anthony Claiborne, joined as always by my brother from another mother, halfway around the world, or maybe all the way around the world. We're not really sure. We're not that really good at geography or that kind of thing, even though I used to teach it, but public school, right?
Exactly.
John the Red Man Espy is with us today, and I gotta tell you, John, I'm feeling a little intimidated because we have a voice actor.
I know, man.
I feel like I might be being judged.
Exactly. We'll be like,
I don't
yes. We gotta have our
Not
NPR
even
voice.
slightly, trust me.
We gotta get our NPR voices on. We're like, yes, Caleb.
Ooh.
How are you doing today? Yes.
You know, the funny thing is, podcasting and audiobooks are two very different voice acting skill sets. So you guys are great at what you do.
Oh, it's all look. Make me feel all fuzzy. Make me feel all fuzzy and warm inside, Caleb.
I don't know though, man. That felt a bit like when you were a kid and mom told you, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Shut up, Anthony. Just let me have my delusion. Dang it, Anthony. Let me just.
I mean, you think about it. Rogan isn't exactly a voice actor. He's great at what he does, but he's not a voice actor. Let's be honest.
Hey, there you go.
Fair enough.
And since we're gunning for the Christian Joe Rogan position, that's what
Exactly.
We got it for it, man.
Right.
We coming up on it. We got 129 subscribers. We coming up.
Nice.
We coming
we
up
think
on you,
each of you.
Exactly. I don't
Here's
know.
what I don't get. All right, let me talk about that in a minute.
Oh, Lord. Here we go.
May
Here's
I
the rant.
just for a moment?
Oh, Lord.
Guys who listen, guys who are like follow the Facebook page. There's like 600 and some of y'all, and there's 129 YouTube subscribers. It's not that hard to just slide over there and click subscribe. It's not that hard.
It's
In
right
fact-
down there. It's right down there.
In fact, we will even like type out instructions for you.
No.
You know, the funny thing is, I'm pretty sure I subscribe to you guys on YouTube, but I listen to all my podcasts on Spotify, so I know I'm subscribed to you on there.
There you
But
go.
I have to check if I'm doing it on YouTube as well. Because there's like 18 different places to listen to podcasts.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
right. The thing is like we got to figure out how to get video on the Spotify. I don't know how to do that. And so if we
I know it's possible, yeah.
So I mean, we got to
I'm
figure out.
not sure what the trick to it is, but
and duplicate
yeah.
it there. Maybe
it's probably not
Be
that hard.
popular enough that people want to watch you.
That's what it is.
See, I actually like Spotify because it's seamless when it goes between the video and the audio. You can keep everything going, whether you're actually able to watch it on the screen or just listen.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool how they do it.
And you got to pay for that stinking stupid
Exactly.
pop up every 5 seconds. Like you want a YouTube, whatever.
Exactly.
It is.
Yep.
Anyway, we digressed. So
Sorry. That's what we
today
do.
we're excited though, man. We got like Anthony said, we got a voice actor,
Mhm.
Caleb McAllister on from the big Lynchburg, Virginia. There at one of my alma mater jiu-jitsu schools. That's like where I cut my teeth with the jiu-jitsu.
We have twisted each other's legs into weird positions and all kinds of things over there.
Mostly him twisting mine and most of mine.
Depending on the day.
No, not depending on the day. Just every day, Caleb. Every day. There's don't you ain't got to blow smoke that way. Every day if I ever trained with you, it was no like, I kind of got him. No. It's it's me.
You're being nice. Thank you.
No. Anyway, so he's not only a voice actor, a voice recorder, audible guy. He is also a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt.
Yes,
He's
sir.
a professional fighter. How many professional MMA fights do you have?
MMA, I fought like 25, 30 times because when I was doing it, it was kind of the Wild West where there was pro, semi-pro, amateur. It was all kind of the same thing.
True, yeah.
Where like amateurs were getting
Parking
paid even
lot
though they weren't
behind a
supposed
hotel.
to, and it was all the same rule set. Like it's like I get them all mixed up. But I fought like 20 sometimes altogether.
That's all. So an
Now
experienced
hundreds
MMA
probably
guy.
of submission grappling
There you go.
on top of that now.
Yeah, man. So Caleb is an all-around Renaissance man. He's
Thank you.
Above all, he loves Jesus, and that's what is
Amen.
most important, man. That's what's most important. That's why
Amen.
we asked him to come on the show. He's an amazing guy who loves Jesus and does some really cool
appreciate
stuff.
it.
So, man,
I'm glad you guys
thanks
had
for
me,
coming
man.
on.
It's good
bro.
to be
We
here.
appreciate you,
Yes,
man.
sir.
John also mentioned, if I understand this correctly, were you a journalism major? Is that correct?
Yes, I studied print journalism in college.
Okay.
Even though I knew that I didn't want to do the traditional 9 to 5, work for a newspaper type thing.
You okay? You good? You be lagging?
Do you still there?
Yeah,
I
do we
think I
lag
lost
out?
you.
We lag out.
There we go. Okay, there we are. Sorry, my computer's being weird.
It's all
I
right.
apologize.
That's what we have editing for. It's all right.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was going to say
Magic of
is,
editing.
yes. But yes, you're absolutely right.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, man, thanks for being with us.
Yes, sir.
Golly, there's like so many different directions we could go with talking with you, and you are genuinely a Renaissance man, and I really love that because
thank you.
I think it's so important for dudes to like have that physical aspect, but at the same time be involved in arts. I think that's super.
That's always been something that's really important to me. Not just the physical, not just the mental, but this, have a well-rounded personality, well-rounded interests and passions in the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, and ideally to try to be the best I can possibly be at all of them.
Yeah, that's good. So walk us through. We got so many different things to hit on here, but we'll start with what I feel like is kind of the most obvious because you sound like the white Barry White. I mean, you're like, let's start.
Well, thank you. Well, I will say, like I said, I have been recording many hours in the last day or two, so I am starting to get a little hoarse. So I apologize if my voice starts to give out on me. It has definitely been a tiring couple of days on that front.
It's the COVID, man. The COVID got you. That's what it was. The COVID.
Sure, we'll go with that.
My Rona. At what point did you get involved in that kind of thing? Like, what does a person do where you talking in class one day and a teacher was like, you're talking a lot, Caleb. Maybe you talk for a living. What was that?
In all seriousness, you're not far off. I actually worked for the TV station on campus when I was in college, just in the booth, the audio booth, just hitting buttons, swapping tapes out, that kind of stuff.
LU, baby. LU.
Yes, exactly. The Liberty Channel. Yep.
All three flamers right here.
They beat Syracuse the other week.
I would say they've got a good football team this year, man.
And beat Southern Miss. They're like 5-0 or 6-0.
If they beat Virginia Tech in a couple of weeks, man, that's going to be insane.
Man,
which could happen based on what I'm seeing of Tech.
Yeah. I mean, it's a weird year. You never know. Anything could happen. Yeah. But yeah, anyway, so the lady that was the vice president of the station, who was my supervisor, she basically came in when I was working one day and said, "Hey, have you ever done any voice work?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Come with me." So she brought me down to where they have their voice rooms, their voice booths set up, and had me record the station ID tags for the Liberty Channel.
Oh, wow.
And I had never done anything like that before, never even crossed my mind, but that was kind of the first exposure to the industry that I had. And I knew that I always wanted to be self-employed. That was always a goal of mine. So once I had that opportunity, I was like, I wonder if I can do this as a freelancer. And come to find out, that's how most audio producers do their work, is as freelancers.
That's awesome, man. So that you mentioned, you have a couple little side hustles going on. So what's your main hustle? What's the main thing that's that you do like day in, day out? Besides
the main two that I've been focusing on the last recent years are the submission grappling and the audio producing.
There we go. We see it again. Really nice attempt there by Dennis, but Caleb saw it coming in. He's already in on the back. He's got one hook in. Dennis really needs to get his back to the mat. And there we go. We see Caleb finish with the...
Other things, that get mixed in here and there, but those are the two biggest ones, I've always told people that I don't believe in the burn your bridges concept when it comes to being a professional fighter or a professional submission grappler. I understand why people recommend that. Like, if you have any other way to earn a living besides fighting, you're going to settle for it when things get tough. And I understand why people say that, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
Because if you are so stressed about how I'm going to pay rent this month, it's going to be hard for you to focus on your training and reaching your potential to the best of your ability, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's kind of an excuse that people use. They're like, well, I had another way to earn a living, so I chose not to pursue my passion. Well, I mean, that sounds like a mental weakness, in my opinion. If you are able to earn a living along the way, then that allows you to focus more on what you want to do.
Yeah. And that's one thing, too, that I think is it's starting to happen, is the ability to make money at grappling. And you can do that over and over. Like, if you're just doing MMA, there's only so many punches you can take. There's
Right.
only so many
That's
kicks
right.
to the head you can get before things start kind of building up with
That
grappling.
sounds like
That's
a
true.
voice of experience to me.
I mean, I get
That's
hit
true.
a lot, man. but
That's just Chrissy kicking him in the head.
exactly. It's supposed to be my wife. It's not even like another dude.
The way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly. But it seems like this is like the grappling world is really opening up for fighters.
It really has.
Make money.
It's kind of remarkable. You're absolutely right. The last few years, especially, I think what really made it start exploding, or at least one of the things, was YouTube Live, Facebook Live, live streaming platforms that were available for free like that.
Yeah.
Because before that, if you wanted to broadcast a show, you needed to get, pay-per-view set up, which is a huge hassle and extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can air anything you want. Tell your sponsors, hey, we're going to have 10,000, however many people watch this. Now there's actually money to be made.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. I know, like when Flow Grappling was starting to do their stuff, I started kind of building, but I was like, man, I don't want to pay for those subscription to go just to watch a
right.
fights.
I mean, there's a lot of shows on Flow or on UFC Fight Pass, and that's awesome too. But there's options beyond that as well now.
Exactly. That's making it more people get more interest in it because it is getting on those platforms where anybody can watch it and make, oh, this is really cool to watch. And
we are starting to see more personalities as well. Gordon Ryan, of course, being the most obvious example of that, where people care.
Yeah.
Love him or hate him, whatever you want to say about his personality. People care, even if they're tuning into, in hopes that he gets beaten, that is attracting eyeballs to the sport.
See, I think Gordon's he's like the what's that Irish cat?
Conor
McGregor,
McGregor,
like McGregor and Floyd, of submission grappling kind of thing.
Yep, I think you're right.
He's a good mouth talker. But
yes,
don't if there's no chance he's listening to this, but just in case, I'm on your side there, Gordon. Don't be freaking.
I mean, when you're that good, I mean, he talks so much trash, especially to the Brazilian grapplers and whatnot, but he is so good that what are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
Well, one of the things too that's been so cool about it is it's there's that availability, but the shows are really good. When Meta Morris hit the scene.
Yes.
I mean, like, I lost my mind watching Meta Morris. That was just the camera angles, the environment, just the whole thing was just so well put together.
All they needed to do was pay their athletes, and they really had something going.
Exactly.
But other than that, they were great.
Other than that one little hitch.
Other than that, just a minor little detail. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Meta Morris put on a great show, and a lot of other shows have kind of followed in their footsteps on that front.
That happens a lot. Somebody will kind of be the original, but they don't really get it down, and other people come along and say, well, okay, that was good. We're going to take from that, and we're going to tweak it, do things like pay our athletes, and we're going to do this right.
Right. Well, I mean, Eddie Bravo with the EBI was, one of the early ones as well, alongside Meta Morris, that really started doing a high quality production.
Yeah.
And
I still watch his Meta Morris fight. I go back and watch that fight.
Oh yeah,
like all the time.
It was incredible.
It was just so good.
It was. You're absolutely right.
Huron's knee or whatever, like 45 times or where it was. He was
something like
got
that.
Him in the truck, whatever. It was like that was a good.
Yeah.
What I'm waiting for. This is what I'm waiting for. I'm waiting for submission wrestling to become WWE. That's what I'm gonna go back to WWE. I want to see people coming out and
throw a chair onto the mat.
Exactly, throw some stuff. Let's watch it, because I started watching y'all. I don't know if it was you or Jeremy or one of those guys. Y'all were like a tag team match, right?
Yes, I was gonna say it was me and three of my teammates. Jeremy was one of them. Yeah. It was gimmicky, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, and they tagged. So
there's the tag one.
Tyree had to let go, and look, he's getting his back taken now. You see, that's perfect.
You know what I mean? Because obviously there are a lot of team events like the quintet shows that are very popular now, and this was not that. Okay. Like you said, this was 4 guys versus 4 guys, and you can tag them in and onto the mat, which meant that you had a good 5 seconds to grapple 2 versus 1. Which is a long time to survive with 2 guys attacking you.
So apparently, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu does, in fact, work against multiple opponents.
Well, yeah, but it's certainly harder.
Seconds. At least
exactly.
5 seconds.
Exactly.
So somebody throws a chair on the mat.
Yeah, there weren't chairs, but maybe that's coming next time.
Exactly.
Why are you slapping people around in combat?
Exactly. That's my next one, right? Is the combat jiu-jitsu where we're allowed to slap each other. So.
Exactly. That's amazing.
Are you gonna, as you slap the guy? Are you gonna Are you gonna like do voice acting stuff? You're like, whoosh,
kind of like the Walker Texas Ranger, where you have to add the thunderclap effect to your head kicks.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. You got to do those things, man. That'd be awesome. Just do that. Just come out in like the most weirdest, like, no-gi uniform you have on and just smack.
There's some unique ones. It's true. It's a great idea.
There you go, dude. And like, so
we need to make him something for that. Definitely needs to make him something.
Oh man, we need to get we need to like death roll him some stuff up, man. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, shameless plug, death roll's gear. There was a what were we talking about just a second ago? My brain just loses track.
EBI and Metamora stuff.
Yeah, so you're coming up actually to a Combat JiuJitsu competition here soon, correct? Like
yes, December 5th, I believe. It's a bracket with several other really high-level professional black belts under CJJ rules, which involve palm strikes. Since you're not wearing gloves, so it wouldn't be a good idea to try to throw a closed fist, even if you were allowed to. So if you don't have gloves on, it's a lot safer for the person hitting to throw palm strikes. Yeah. But that's going to be a lot of fun because there's no stalling under that rule set.
That's awesome.
So is somebody judging, making sure that you're not using the heel of your hand?
No, you better be using the heel of your hand. That's how you do. That's how you throw a palm strike. We're not slapping like a toddler here. We're trying to knock each other out.
But I watched. I think it was the first or second one they did. There was one cat on there, and he was. I think a guy had him in like a single leg X, and he was just raining down palm strikes on him. I was like, oh, dude. I think
there was. I believe Nathan Orchard lost to Wagner Rocha, if I remember right, to a TKO under Combat JiuJitsu rules because he got locked into a real tight mount, couldn't get out, and just beat the crap out of him. And Nathan Orchard is a fantastic grappler, but you got Wagner Rocha locked into a mount. That's not great.
It's bad. That's bad stuff. But I mean, the thing is, with those rule sets, and that's one thing, people may freak out about it. There's no gloves, on the ground hitting and stuff.
Yes.
But I mean, it in a lot of ways, it's a lot safer than MMA. It seems to
you're not getting kicked in the head or elbowed or,
Probably going to end faster, I would think, to some degree.
Like I said, there's no stalling under that rule set. So
everybody's adults. They know what they're signing up.
Exactly.
Yeah. How does that change? Like, so you're training for, competition jiu-jitsu and IBJJF rules, and then you transition over to combat jiu-jitsu. Like, how does that, like, throwing in the strikes? I mean, what positions do you not want to get in? Like, you personally do not want to get into because of the strikes that's there. That kind of throws a different dynamic into the game. Like, what kind of do you throw out from your IBJJ or your main jiu-jitsu, and then when you go into the palm strikes and stuff?
Well, for me personally, it's actually not a huge difference from the game that I would use even under, ADCC or EBI or whatever type rule sets. I'm not an IBJJF fan personally. I am a famous IBJJF hater, although they are allowing heel hooks, so that's a step in the right direction.
I was like,
I'll give them that.
But they're not doing master level. Like, master level can't do it, right? Like
that I'm not sure about. I know it's brown and black in the no-gi. I'm not sure if masters are or aren't. But hey, it's a step in the right direction.
Heck yeah.
Now they just need to start paying their freaking athletes.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
Hey, it's a start. I'll give them credit for that. But it's you got to be careful when you're playing off the bottom when the guy's allowed to hit you.
Yeah.
So for a guy like me who comes from an MMA / self-defense background, that's how Jamie Ridgway, my head coach, has always taught jiu-jitsu is with a self-defense focus first, and then competition application second.
Yeah.
You kind of are prepared for that already.
Good.
When they are allowed to start hitting you, because it's not the first time that we've focused on that. We've done that for many, many years. So you can't be hanging out, flat on your back for very long. Obviously, you need to be sweeping aggressively, getting up on top, things like that. But, you just have to be prepared for the possibility that they could be hitting you.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, one of the things that we kind of talked about before in other places is that if you're not getting hit sometime in your training, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you're
getting a false impression of what works and what doesn't.
Yeah,
I agree 100%.
Yeah, like going into some of the weird half guard stuff and some of the different inverted guards and stuff. It's like it works great when they can't hit you, but once they start throwing licks,
there will be no donkey guard.
There's no
donkey guard.
I wouldn't expect to see a whole lot of that this time.
I don't know. Like if you can only slap somebody, right? donkey guard might work because you can't get hit in the nuts. I mean, they can't just palm strike in the nuts, and so like
body shots.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe
you never know.
I think what fascinates me about that is, I mean, you know, Eddie obviously kind of put that thing together,
right? The CJJ stuff,
and then in listening to you, it sounds like it almost some of the stuff that he himself has created, for lack of a better term, and teaches. It's almost like the way his mind works is that he's trying to test his own stuff in a way, to see what it will hold up against.
Well, and that was kind of his vision for his style of jiu-jitsu from the start, was to make jiu-jitsu, especially the guard, work in MMA, where you don't fall apart when the person starts hitting you from on top, which is kind of cool.
Definitely. So talking about Eddie, and this is kind of get off into
for my friends listening, we're talking about Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo.
Exactly.
He's a big old dope smoker from California.
That is rumored. Yes,
he's a very good jiu-jitsu guy. So talking about that, for all of our jiu-jitsu guys out there, everybody that actually follows the sport, East versus West, it goes back to Tupac versus Biggie. You know, so who do you got? You got Danaher, or you got Bravo? Which one do you think is putting out the best leg lock and no-gi stuff right now? What do you think?
I mean, they're obviously both at the top of the game on that front, but the Danaher squad has been handling the 10th Planet guys for the last few years. So, you know, the 10th Planet guys are extremely high level, but they have definitely been kind of getting edged on that front of late, because the DDS guys are so good at what they do. I know Eddie does not like that, you know, and he's talked about, we kind of started the no-gi submission professional submission grappling scene, and we're losing at our own game, and we need to fix that. And, I actually saw an interview with Danaher who was like, I mean, that's the attitude he should have. Like, that's not like being disrespectful. Like, I would hope he would think that. Like, we're competitive pro athletes here. You can't be satisfied with not winning.
Unless you're the Jets.
Well, they seem to have gotten pretty used to it.
you build your brand off that. It's like we are
them and the Giants this year, man. It's like the whole that whole stadium.
Oof.
You saw was it Daniel Jones wipe out trying to run it back for a touchdown last week with no one within 15 feet of him?
just fell over. Huh?
That poor guy. I mean, we've all tripped over nothing before, but man, you would hope that the one time that it doesn't happen is when you are on national TV in a situation like that. That poor guy.
I gotta go look that up. I missed that one.
Have you not seen? Yeah, it's.
But it will be playing right here.
The New York Giants season in a nutshell. Almost run back a touchdown and then just wipe out with nobody even close to touching you.
I feel like it's a good microcosm for my life some days.
Oh yeah.
Well, we all have days like that, right?
Yeah. I have years like that. I would like to.
I would say, or decades.
Exactly. Just true. Back.
All right, so I want to shift. I keyed on something that you mentioned just a little bit earlier in our chat. You were talking about just that pursuing your passion thing, and so take our guys for a moment through this idea. There's that balance, right? Of pursuing your passion and being like, realistic, like if there's a 48-year-old guy out there, or like, I'm turning 48 this year.
Old as dirt, man. You're old as dirt.
Yeah. You're probably not going to like go out and be like a UFC fighter, right? I mean, you might fight in some weird thing behind Denny's, but like,
sure,
like,
or at Denny's,
yeah, over the last waffle,
Applebee's,
yeah. So like for guys, a lot of times I feel like guys kind of struggle with that, finding that balance of responsibility versus passion, and also of knowing when to recognize, okay, I need to shift my focus a little bit, because my dream of being a voice actor is not going to happen because I sound like Lenny from Laverne and Shirley back in the day, or whatever. Where do we find all that? Where do we find that balance?
My 2 cents on that is, sure, there's going to be some things that are not realistic. Like you said, there's not a whole lot of 48-year-old UFC fighters out there. But just because some dreams may not be entirely realistic does not mean that you have to throw out all possible dreams once you reach a certain age or a certain situation in life, at least in my opinion. So like, it's funny what you mentioned about, like, I don't have the right voice for voice acting. There are some of the best voice actors out there that do not have a stereotypical radio voice like I have. There are some that are very, I don't want to say like average voices, but you would never guess to talk to them that they're voice actors. But what they are good at is telling stories. It's more about the ability to storytell than it is about the voice. Now, there are some styles that, yes, having a certain voice is helpful, but it's not the only possible way to be successful in the industry. Like I said, some of the most famous voice actors on the planet do not have good voices. And what you're talking about, sure, maybe you can't be a UFC fighter at 48, but my goal is to continue to compete in submission grappling into my 60s at least.
Yeah.
We'll see if God allows me to stay healthy and to continue to do that. But as much it depends on me, I don't expect that to not be the case. And, we'll see what happens, of course. But if something were to happen that prevented me from competing in submission grappling, I would find something that I could do. So, for example, I fought MMA for many years. I kind of started to realize the injuries were piling up and I wasn't going to be able to do it for too many more years. Right. That's why I shifted to submission grappling, because I wanted to still be able to compete, to chase that kind of a passion. Yeah. But in my opinion, there's always a way to do that.
So my former football players out there, you can go find a flag football league.
Well, you think about it.
You can.
How many guys now are going from football, or especially wrestling, into submission grappling because there's a way to continue to compete, to make money, etc.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting too to see how God changes things. God will take this passion that you have. Like I've been martial arts since I was 10. Love martial arts. And I'm a chubby white guy. So like I'm never going to be like, I was never an idea I'll be a professional fighter kind of thing, or, but I love martial arts. And so it's just funny how God shaped down my path to be doing what I do for, I guess a living, you want to call it a living. I'm doing it as a ministry. Right. But it's something I get to do. I get to train every day because
there's no coincidences.
Yeah. God's just working that together for his glory and our good. And so
I agree 100%.
You hand those dreams over, like you said, and let him mold it. It's a lot. It works out a lot better, and you're a lot more satisfied, I think, than trying to force something down the pipe.
Well, I always felt like it was very relevant to the parable of the talents, as well known of a story as that is. I don't want to come to the end of my life and be like, I worked a 9 to 5 and didn't go bankrupt. Like, I mean, that's good, but what did you do with whatever like talents you want to say that God gave you? In my opinion, there's more in most people's lives than they ever recognize that go untapped.
Yeah, just like me as a male model, I haven't tapped into that yet.
Yes.
But any day now.
Exactly. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming.
There's a lot of really good stuff in there, guys. One other thing that kind of comes to my mind is I'm a musician, and I think one of the best things that ever happened for musicians was stuff like American Idol, and one of the worst things that ever happened was stuff like American Idol, because
fair enough.
In our culture, we kind of, it's like we equate getting discovered or found. It's almost like we lost the joy of doing music for doing the joy of doing music.
It's not just about the career or the money or
And you can apply that to jiu-jitsu. You can apply that to football, baseball, whatever, you know, and I think a lot of the disheartened feeling a lot of guys in our age bracket feel and so forth is that they feel like they haven't been able to
hold up. Are
you still in the same decade?
Our age bracket is a little bit big. All right. I'm barely skirting on 40. You just, and Caleb's
all right, whatever. Well, I know he is the younger
33.
Yet very wise one in the group here. But there's that angst, I guess I would say a lot of guys feel, instead of just going, this can be something that is done for joy. And if we're living 1 Corinthians 10:31 life, whether therefore you eat or drink or whatsoever you do, to all of the glory of God, it all can be worship.
Absolutely.
Combat JiuJitsu is worship.
Absolutely. Agree with that 100%.
Worship. Your football, your even golf, you can but I think we've kind of lost that a lot in our society. We've allowed people to shape our thinking rather than allowing biblical thinking to shape
and
us.
it may or may not be, also a financially rewarding passion.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's why I always encourage younger athletes to find a way to pay the bills and then find a way to chase your dreams. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing, especially early on, because nobody's getting rich off of fighting or grappling when they start out. I've always used the reference to Chariots of Fire, the story where Eric is talking to his sister and she wants him to drop running, go to China. And he tells her, Jenny, I know God made me for China, but he also made me fast. And when I run, I feel his pleasure. And I saw that as probably like a 12-year-old, and it like changed my life, in all seriousness. Like it was kind of I had heard, you can glorify God doing anything. Yeah. But for some reason it had never really sunk in to the degree that it did when I saw that movie. Yeah. That, like you said, you can do anything to the glory of God, whatever passions or dreams or talents he gives you. Like you said, jiu-jitsu or any other sport or music or any passion. I do believe, obviously as heads of households, it is our job to pay the bills, provide for our kids and so forth. But beyond that, I think it is important to find a way to glorify God with the talents and passions he gives us.
Amen. And I was watching this completely off the Christian side of it, but Dave Chappelle was talking about his he's
a smart man.
He's a smart guy. Like he was the first guy
Very smart man
in his family not to go to college. And he's talking with his dad, and he's like, your dad's like, it's gonna be really hard out there. Not everybody makes it. And he says, depends on what you mean by making it. Like if I can make a teacher's salary, which his dad was a teacher, if I can make a teacher's salary doing comedy, that's making it to me. And he's true. Like, well, cool. Yeah, if you do that, you got that attitude, you're gonna be fine. And
that's true.
I think that's
and now he's the greatest stand-up comedian of all time, if you ask me.
Exactly. It's hilarious.
Go figure.
Yeah, but I think it's that idea of going, what's our standard of success?
Right.
If it's only,
or, if somebody's passion was stand-up comedy, if you weren't making a good living at it, it's one of the kind of the cool things about today's society with the gig economy. And there's so many ways to work online and do, different side hustles. Like, okay, chase your dreams of doing stand-up. That's awesome. Find a way to pay the bills in the meantime.
Yep, exactly.
And that's always completely doable, especially if you're willing to hustle.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, man. There's got to be some hustle and some butts. That's the thing. Got to be some hustle and some butts.
It's not, easy to chase a passion while supporting yourself and paying the bills. That's going to put a lot of hours in. You're not going to be, hanging out with your friends and wasting money, in bars and things like that very much. But if it matters to you, you can make sacrifices. You can put in a level of work that most people aren't willing to put in.
Amen.
I feel like this episode, if guys will listen to this episode with a notebook and a pen and write down these different things and just do what we're talking about this one episode, it'll solve a lot of headaches.
I don't know about that, but it's funny. Sometimes people assume that if you want to go to my classes that I teach, at the Renaissance Academy, that like that's only for like the really high level grapplers. And that's not true.
No.
I want anybody in there who is willing to work really, really hard. I do not care how talented you are. Now, here's the funny thing. If you come to my class and you are willing to work really hard, well, suddenly you're going to be good. It's not that you have to be good to train in my classes. It's if you're willing to put in that amount of work, you're going to get good. So that's all I ask. You can be brand new, no clue what you're doing. But if you're willing to buckle down and work really, really, really hard, that's all I ask.
Yeah.
Because I've said many times, I sucked when I started out. I have very little natural talent. I used to get the crap beat out of me, but I was too stubborn to quit. I kept working, and now I chase the top black belts on the planet all over because this is what I do. Yeah. You work hard enough, and eventually it overcomes any lack of innate talent.
That's the thing we've seen like so many times. Like we've had everybody we've had on this high level and anything to do. They all say the same thing: hard work. Like it is just putting hours in. You're gonna get at least some level of success. If you just,
there's plenty of talented guys out there that aren't willing to put the work in, and they never reach their potential because of it.
Exactly.
Every once in a while, you see somebody that has insane talent and insane work ethic, and then you got GSP.
Yeah, exactly.
But there ain't too many of those.
No, there's not.
Maybe Khabib, since he just retired last night, he might be another example of that.
He did what? I missed that.
You didn't hear that? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he retired. He's beat Justin Gaethje, choked him out with a triangle, and retired 29-0. He said he wants to spend more time with his mom, with his dad passing away. He doesn't want to do it anymore.
Wow.
Man, that's crazy, man. And like him with Khabib and what's that? The Cormier. He was doing
DC.
He was doing like some workouts out there at Cormier's gym and wherever that's at. And,
I think they're teammates if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and like he was just, it was really cool that he was like Khabib's in there and Cormier's in there with like high school kids. Like you got high school kids in there training and working with world class guys. And it's like really, really neat.
It's kind of cool, that in this sport you have access to like the LeBron James level talents.
Yeah. At a local gym,
Right.
It's really crazy, man. Like how that's opening up. Like if you're out there and you're new to the sport, or you really start to like it, then you can go train with your heroes. You literally can go.
It's true.
Know your heroes.
It's really unique. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting.
It is.
He couldn't even done one more fight though, so it was 30.
That's what we all expected.
Always gonna bother me.
I think that was what he originally had planned, but I think it was because of his dad passing away, who was his coach. He was just like, I don't want to do this without my dad anymore.
Yeah,
which when they were that close, and especially not just your dad, but your dad and your coach.
Yeah,
I can see how it's kind of hard to find the drive to do that.
He lost.
Now, he's still gonna be coaching and training and helping the younger guys. But he said he doesn't want to get out there and fight anymore. Which I can't fault him for that.
He's got nothing to prove, that's for sure.
That was the one fight that we wanted to see, was him versus GSP, which they had rumored that GSP would come back for that one, but it sounds like it's not going to happen, unfortunately.
What do you think?
Maybe behind a Denny's parking lot somewhere.
You never know.
Or in Denny's. Who do you think would have come out on that one, GSP or Khabib?
Well, I said before he fought Justin Gaethje the other day that if Justin couldn't do it, that GSP was the only guy who had a chance.
Really?
I do think that GSP has a very legit chance, assuming that he still looks about like the GSP that we remember, which I don't see why he wouldn't, considering that he hasn't stopped training.
Yeah.
But Khabib's style of wrestling primarily involves pressuring his opponent into the fence.
Yeah. Whereas
GSP primarily relied on footwork and speed in his level change out in the middle of the cage.
Yeah.
So I think GSP had a really legit chance of being able to take Khabib down.
Wow.
Which we've never seen before.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I think GSP had a really legit chance, because Khabib, I would assume, is much less proficient on his back than he is on top.
Yeah,
probably.
So I'm not saying that he would have dominated Khabib, but I'm saying that he would have been a much safer bet than anybody else that I've seen Khabib fight, just stylistically.
Makes sense. Well, but
I guess we'll never find out.
Exactly. We'll never know. It's a dream when like 2025 when everybody's like,
maybe on like a UFC
come out,
game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was that I think it was it Anderson versus John Jones, or it was one of those fantasy matchups that actually happened in a sparring session behind closed doors. There was only like a couple of people there, like Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta. So maybe they'll have that happen with GSP and Khabib at some point.
Well, that's like the Mike Tyson and
Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, Roy Jones Jr. coming. Like doing the exhibition fight.
That's a little different.
That's interesting. Like, I don't think anybody's exhibition fighting Mike Tyson. There's
no, I don't like, and they haven't really explained what they mean by that. Like, I guess it means they're wearing headgear, but yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I think Tyson would tear Jones up. I think this.
Well, honestly, if they're wearing headgear, I mean, if they're wearing headgear, that makes Roy Jones's head a bigger target, and his whole game was being elusive and fast. That's just going to help Tyson out. So.
Ooh, that man! I just watching his comeback. That's like one of the things that was inspiring to me. Like I'm trying to lose weight, but it was like one of the things to watch.
Tyson looks great though.
No, man, he looks great.
Yeah,
like he's come back and watching his hands and like how hard he's hitting. And I'm like, man, that was.
can't fault the man for rediscovering his passion and having something to motivate him to get up every day. You know.
Yeah, man. That was just crazy, man. That was motivating to see him kind of coming back up, and I hope they do a fight just to see him in the ring again. It'd be awesome. Man.
I wish them both all the best. I'm a big fan of both of those guys. So
yeah. What'd you say, Dave and Buster? What?
I said next up is him and Buster Douglas. Let's bring Buster Douglas back.
Yeah,
Buster's probably like 945 pounds, eating like Cheetos in somewhere. Right? Like
I was gonna say, at least Roy Jones Jr. has been active and stayed in shape and everything.
Yeah.
So I remember, when Tyson lost his first fight, we watched it. I'll never forget it. Me and my friends, like we paid for it on pay-per-view. We were so excited. We were gonna watch Mike Tyson fight. And we paid for it on pay-per-view. We got our Little Caesars pizza. We had just sit down good. It's over.
Yeah.
Buster put him down.
And that's one of the things that boxing has never done a great job of is marketing multiple guys on the same cards. It was always just the main event, and then nobody cared about anything else.
Yeah.
So
cheese don't even coat on the pizza yet.
That's what I'm saying.
I remember watching the fight when Tyson bit Holyfield's ear. And I'll never forget. That's the last time I ever had a drink in my life was that night.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was the last time I ever drank. And just I was like watching that fight, and also I'm like, this dude just bit his ear. It's like this. It's a strange night.
It was rumored that it might be Holyfield that he would fight again, but I guess that didn't happen.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think like watching Holyfield, some of his tape. Like just his workout, his hands were slow, so slow compared to Tyson.
I mean, how old is he? I mean, how old is he now?
Oh, I don't even know, man. We'll have to put that in the
82.
Yeah,
we're gonna put it in the edit.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna be Jamie.
All right, go ahead. Come on. Hey, Jamie, look it up for us. Man.
Yeah.
We wear multiple hats.
Exactly. But
he might be in his 50s now. I'm not sure.
He's got to be. He's got to be in his 50s.
Yeah.
Man. And just know how I feel at 40. I couldn't imagine being in my 50s and going back and getting in the ring. Like it just was like, no.
I mean, it would take a ton of work to get back into even reasonable shape for it.
Heck yeah. Like
it's doable if it matters, maybe not to where you're taking on
years old.
58. Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And that's
like you might at that age, you might not ever get into the kind of shape to be taken on like one of the young killers that are up and coming, but you could still get into good shape again, where you'd be at least competitive.
He needs to do combat jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Right.
Who, Holyfield or Tyson?
I'd love to see you both doing it. That'd be great.
So talk about some of the guys you've gotten to fight. You've gotten to go all over the country and fight and train and do all kinds like that. You tried out for the UFC's not the contender, the Tough, right? You tried out
the Ultimate Fighter. Yeah, that was back when they were still doing Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
Actually, it was kind of one of the highlights of my career. Like, at least for me personally, I actually felt fantastic that day. They actually had us do some exhibition matches, basically.
Yeah.
At the hotel, and actually broke a kid's arm with a Kimura.
Okay. All right. Don't just skim past that one. Let's go back to that.
Yeah. Well, nobody's tapping easily in a situation like that,
But how did I've always wondered what it's going to feel like when that thing pops in a Kimura. Like what was the sensation when it happened? Like
almost like a bubble wrap.
Really?
Yeah. The funny thing with Kimuras is I've seen it destroy the shoulder, I've seen it destroy the elbow, and I've seen it fracture I want to say what's the upper arm? The ulna.
Yeah, the ulna.
I can't remember. Yeah, whatever. I've actually seen it fracture the bone of the upper arm instead of damaging either joint.
Into trouble! Oh, look at this! Unbelievable! Trying to finish it! He's got it!
Wow.
I think it's just genetic, depending on what. Maybe if you have like a micro fracture or something. Yeah.
Wow. So what?
It's never like one specific thing.
It broke, popped out. Like how did it break? What broke? Like the bone?
I don't know which part it was for him, but you could feel it pop, and then it was just kind of dangling.
Suddenly there was no more resistance.
Yeah.
See.
Yeah. But like I said, at that level of professional competition, people don't tap just because it's starting to get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. The one I saw that just makes me cringe is that one with Aoki when he had that hammerlock in and just popped that.
The standing one, right?
No, the sitting one when he was on his back.
Oh, the sitting one, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I think he did one standing too.
That's going to be solved. That is a bully beatdown. Hiroja in trouble. Aoki applying the pressure.
Standing too, like off of a collar tie, like he shrugged off into a 2-on-1 and snapped the elbow.
Yeah, popped that. I was like, but that one, the one he did.
Aoki's an explosive dude.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with him.
I was like, that made me cringe. It's like, oh
yeah.
But anyway.
Like the Nogueira versus Frank Mir Kimura. That was another one that was pretty gross too.
There's something about it. Just because the crazy thing is like, we all if people that do jiu-jitsu and do martial arts, you're training for years to break stuff. You're training for years to destroy somebody else's body. But when it actually happens, it's like this. There's this little like, oh my god, like it's just like people never train. Like I couldn't imagine like not ever training and not ever like, and then going in and have that happen. You'd just freak out. Like somebody would just freak out. You just broke somebody's arm and like, oh my gosh, like it would just freak you out.
I mean, I look at it almost as a compliment or as a sign of respect between top professional opponents. If I would be offended if my opponent wasn't trying to break my arm in a situation like that. Like, what are you not taking me seriously? Like that would be disrespectful for him to not. So like I don't take it personal. Like I've gotten injured, I've gotten choked out. I've had like plenty of major things happen, and I've broken other people's bones and choked them out. That's simply us taking our job seriously as professionals. Sorry?
John knows about choke injuries.
Man, why are you gonna bring that up, man? Why are you gonna bring that up, dude? Don't tap one time. So, Caleb, let me go back to the story because I'm like, I don't
think I've heard this story.
All right, so I was training. Last thing is a year ago, September. I was in Arizona fighting or training, and I was fighting this guy and doing no gi. And he tried to go to gi to do a takedown. He tried to do a guillotine, and I passed the side and was going across it, and I felt something pop on my throat when I was going across. And then I was like, it kind of hurt, but it wasn't bad. So I went to north-south, and he started sinking in the Ezekiel, no-gi Ezekiel. And it only had maybe a minute left in the marathon. I was like, I'm not going to tap to this thing. And I was on top too. I'm like, I'm not tapping to a top freaking. And so he was putting pressure in, and I was putting pressure back, and we held out for a minute or whatever, and it was over and was done. It was a little bit of pain, but it wasn't.
Until he went to Denny's.
Yeah. It was a little bit of pain, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't like, I'm going to, until I stood up. And when I stood up, I couldn't swallow. And I literally had to move my esophagus over to swallow. And so I broke my, the hiatal bone or whatever it is that's over your thing here.
How long did that take to heal?
I didn't know it was broke. Until I would lay it out at night and click, and I had to move stuff over to swallow and stuff. And so 5 months later, I went to the doctor here in Thailand. I was like, I had it choked. It's been popping a little bit. And it's hard to swallow sometimes. I push my esophagus over to swallow. Can you just check it out? And I thought maybe I just pulled something or something.
Yeah.
And he scoped me, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, you broke your hiatal bone or whatever." And it broke. It did a little notch in, like how I do it there. So it notched in like this, and so normally it's like this, but it notched in and it grew back.
Okay.
And so 30% to half of my throat is closed up from that bone growing back. So it took 5 months.
Not what you want.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
No.
So
wow.
I have to be on a CPAP at night now, and because of it. But
is there any way to fix that or to get it to heal in the right way? Or
you have to go and do surgery and have to go re-break it and stuff.
I was gonna say, you need somebody to break your neck so it's going to heal correctly this time.
Exactly.
That sounds good.
And doing that in Thailand, you got to go in and he's like, well, you may have to do a trachea and stuff. I'm like, no, we good. We all right.
Yeah. We just, at least not if you can function. That I can see why you might.
I just hold my head to decide when I drink things.
It's fine. It's fine. It's all right.
It's
but anyway,
normal.
The bad thing is now I can't compete anymore. Because if it gets too much pressure on again, if it breaks even more, I'm could not.
So you can train, but you can't actually compete.
Exactly. So when I'm training and stuff, somebody says a choke in, I'm like, okay, it's tap.
Yeah.
Tap. It's just no more I can fight through this. I'm like, no, we're good. we good.
When you're dealing with a pre-existing injury, you definitely want to tap quick on stuff that's gonna re-aggravate it.
Yeah. So anyway,
sense.
that's my story that Anthony wants to bring up every time someone talk about choking, that I didn't tap.
Well, it's just the importance of knowing when to tap, I feel like.
Honestly, that sounds like kind of the strangest little fluke where you could probably be in the exact same situation 1,000 times and it might happen like that once.
See? Nah.
All right, you're vindicated, John.
Anthony, be trying to dog me and stuff. I've been dog in the show.
I almost wonder if there wasn't like a pre-existing microfracture of some kind.
I think it was, like, thinking back on it now, like thinking back later on it, I was like, man, because I've been in chokes a long, before.
Right.
Whatever, and then you go through it. But my first competition in Bangkok 3 years ago, whatever it was, I fought this freaking 250-pound powerlifter guy, and did all right. I took him down, knee popped, and I was like, oh, he's gonna tap from the knee pop. He didn't tap, but anyway, he just kind of bench pressed me off of him on side control, and got on top of me and freaking just paper cuttered me, and like all
was this McGee?
Yeah, Gee, and all 250 pounds just boom on my throat, and I couldn't tap fast enough, and it was. And it was like, so my throat was sore for,
and this was before
this is before.
So there could have been some slight damage there. Yeah.
That weakened it, and then it just, that one, it popped on. Right. So I think between those two is what kind of cumulatively made up.
It's funny. We always try to talk about how jiu-jitsu, allows you to beat a bigger, stronger opponent, which certainly it does. But there is a point where if they are sufficiently well trained, size definitely does matter after a while.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like I was doing the PGF season this year at 195, which is 2 weight classes higher than my weight class.
Wow.
And, honestly, had a great season. God really blessed me. But it was kind of funny a couple of times. Like, I was laughing with some of my coaches where they're like, I'm defending guillotines and they're like picking me up off of my feet. Like, I mean, I'm getting out, but man, I'm having to work really hard when the guys that's got, 20, 30 pounds of muscle on you. Like, that definitely makes a difference.
Heck yeah. I see that's the thing too. I think is that people don't understand, and even in women and men kind of thing, goes back to self-defense stuff. It's really, really hard to train a woman to fight a 200 and something pound dude.
Not impossible, but you have to work really hard.
Exactly. And it's one of the things is like, so as we're always trying to say is, if you ain't got to stay there, don't stay there. Get the crap out of there as quick as possible, because honestly, there's no, unless you can equalize the force with a gun, a knife, a stick, or something. It's going to be a lot of prey and a lot of get out there. But there's so many like delusional self-defense stuff out there that could really, really hurt.
Wait, you can't just touch people and make them fall down?
Yeah. It's like,
a 1 hour self-defense seminar. Yeah.
Exactly.
A 1 hour weekend self-defense seminar. I mean, that's great if it gets you interested in actually training.
Exactly.
But it is not going to give you anywhere close to the actual ability that you would need to be able to survive a situation like that.
Yes.
Like I said, my wife trains very seriously, and I've got actually a lot of my students who are smaller females, and some of them are very, very, very good.
Yeah.
But they train full time.
Exactly.
Like they're there for hours every day.
Exactly.
So people like that, they've got a very, it wouldn't even be fair for them versus a typical untrained opponent. Now, you take somebody who's got 50 pounds on them and has the exact same experience, then that sucks. But that's the same for me that I was talking about a minute ago.
Exactly. Man, weight plays a big thing into it, man. And that's the thing is, like, even with the girls we teach, we don't have a lot of time with them. So my thing is, I'm like, they're probably going to forget 99% of the stuff we go over.
Sure.
If I can just get them to fight and not freeze up, that's the only thing that I'm trying to get from is going, just fight.
Because somebody that's attacking them is looking for a helpless victim, not somebody that's going to fight back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if they can,
because you guys are dealing with a very unique situation there.
Yeah. If they can overcome that initial like just freeze and freak out mode, then I'm like, okay, if you can at least get to the point where you're somewhat stress inoculated into that, then okay, you're going to have a
Yes.
better chance than somebody who's not. And so that's kind of
Well, and the nice thing is that you're, I would say the vast majority of the time they're dealing with untrained attackers.
Exactly.
Which, if you have a sufficient level of skill, yeah, you can beat a larger, stronger, untrained attacker.
Exactly.
I always talk about, I don't really care that much about gender when it comes to how I teach and how I train. It's size.
Yeah.
You're going to adjust how you train with a 135-pound guy or a 135-pound girl. It doesn't really matter whether they're a guy or a girl. It's 30 pounds of muscle is going to make a difference in the training,
Exactly. And you
John, you hit on something really good, man, that I don't know if people caught. The importance.
I didn't catch it, so.
Well, the importance of jiu-jitsu guys sometimes, maybe if we're totally honest, are not the most polite about the way they refer to other martial arts. Okay, if we own that, but you hit the key though of why it's so much more efficient, for lack of a better term, and that stress inoculation. It's reality. Nobody's going to stand there and let me leave my arm out for you so you can do this. That's not going to happen.
It's crucial to not have the first time you've dealt with somebody actually attacking you be in a life and death situation. So like I always say, I will respect any type of martial art on the planet if you do it full contact.
Yep.
Like I mean, karate, taekwondo, you do whatever you want if you're actually hitting for real.
Yep.
Point sparring is useless, but
and I think that's that pressure testing is something that has to be there. And I think even in our spiritual life, right? We can,
look at that! Look at that!
Jesus,
look at that! Yes,
full circle,
Jesus right in there.
Got my
full
Jesus
circle
going on. Is that if you've never been pressure tested,
yes,
and your faith's never been pressed by God, if you've never been put into trials, and that's what the Bible talks about. You're trials to refine and have a faith that is just of pure gold, kind of thing. If you've never had that, then when stuff comes up, your faith's going to fall apart. It's going to fall. Your whole world's going to fall apart.
Yes.
And so
there's been a lot of that in 2020,
Yeah.
But like I was saying, you look at, the government in all of its wisdom made it illegal to support your family this year.
Yeah.
So that's a heck of a crisis like you're talking about to deal with. But you trust that one way or another, God is going to continue to provide. Yeah. And like you said, he's done it before, and you trust by faith that he will do it again.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of the churches, and we always kind of are hard on the church. We love the church. We love the bride of Christ, but we want to be critical of the things that are critical, that need to be pointed out. And I think
it's fallen human beings.
Exactly.
Just because we are saved doesn't mean we are perfect. That's for sure.
Exactly. But one of the things that happens in the church is we never we get in this comfortable zone, and then we never put ourselves any further than that. We never step off in the deep end of the pool. There's this song by Casting Crowns. It's Stuck in the Middle. It's Caught in the Middle is the name of the song, but it talks about deep water faith in the shallow end, of warrior in a picket fence. It's this idea of being called to do these things, but we're kind of in our comfort zone. We're half-heartedly doing stuff. We never actually get out there and actually put ourselves to the test in that. And I think the church is made it easy for us to do that. I think the people of the church, people together, has made it easy to do that, to kind of go in church and go, okay, so I'm out Sunday morning, Sunday nights, if I'm really holy, on Wednesday nights, and then but never really get out there and in the fight, and in the dirt and the grime, and in the ministry where that's happening. And because of that, they become can be like martial arts, become delusional. They think that what they're doing is effective or good, but it's actually not.
But they've never tested it.
Exactly.
So like spiritually, like in essence, the American church has become the spiritual equivalent of the North Korean army. We play dress up and march in parades.
Exactly.
March in parades. Everyone cries when we march past. But
it's funny. Like what you're talking about has a really specific application to something that I was talking about with some of my teammates the other day. Because like we were talking earlier, my goal as a martial artist has always been, I don't want to be a big fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
I believe that even though I'm training from a school in a small town in the middle of Virginia, that we are capable of competing with anybody on the planet. But I've never lacked for self-confidence, but until I actually put that to the test, it's all theory.
Yeah.
So that's why, the first time I beat, a black belt, the first time I beat a guy from DDet, all this stuff, I believe I can do it, but until I do it, it's all theory.
Yeah.
So the exact same thing that you're talking about with your faith, until you have dealt with some sort of a serious crisis and chosen to rely on God's provision, even when you didn't see how that was going to happen by faith, until then, it's all just words. It's all just theory.
Exactly. And that's what I think.
Faith matters once there's actually something at stake.
Exactly. That's what, James talks about that. He's like, show me your faith by your,
right.
Show me your belief by your faith, or whatever,
right.
by your words, and I'll show you my faith by my works. And kind of what that looks like is after doing and putting that to test. And so,
right.
All our guys out there, man, put
my wife Rachel and I were talking, and she has a ton of wisdom on a lot of this stuff, but we're talking about how you can make a really strong case that karma is a very Christian concept, at least in certain senses.
Certain senses, maybe like the.
I mean, obviously, they certain faith systems go farther, but if you talk about, the Bible talks about what you reap, you sow, or what you sow, you reap, rather. And that does not mean that we are saved by works. But it does mean that the way that you treat people and your actions have a spiritual impact.
Oh yeah. Definitely. And that's the thing is too that we Anthony's talked about this before. We talked about this before, especially with Dr. McAllister, talking about a lot of things. Like everything impacts the supernatural. The supernatural impacts everything. There's no, like if you have a Christian worldview, it's not just materialistic, Darwinism.
Yes.
There is another.
That's an artificial division between the physical and the spiritual.
Yeah, exactly. There is this. It all is impacting, and how much, we don't really know.
Amen.
But that it's all impacting at the same time, whether it's in your thought life and your marriage and your work, everything is impacted by the supernatural in some way, shape, or fashion. So I think that, like, another thing that we've kind of done, and we've talked about this before, is we've de-supernaturalized. We've not mystified. I hate to use the word mystified, but we've supernaturally, we've taken the supernatural realm of Christianity and made it palatable.
Palatable,
There you go. That's what I'm looking for. We made it palatable.
No, I see what you're saying.
To materialistic Darwinism philosophy and mindset, and we can go, because you can go, okay, Christ is the Son of God. He is God. He died. Every Christian would believe that. Then you start going, hey, there's a demonic influence and attacks going on out there too. There's these going on.
Sure.
And they go, I don't know about that. That seems kind of hokey.
No, that seems kind of,
you believe that the creator of the universe became a man and came on earth, died and rose again. That's not supernatural enough.
That's true.
It's just interesting to see how we've done that.
Well, it kind of ties to what we were talking about earlier with the idea of when I run, I feel God's pleasure. The physical and the spiritual are completely intertwined, both in a positive sense and a negative sense, and at least that's what I believe.
Definitely.
And it's what Scripture teaches,
right?
I mean, it's so obvious. So many of the things that God tells us in His Word to avoid, the reason He's telling us to avoid them is because of how they're tied,
right?
I mean, you can't do things in the body without it affecting you spiritually.
Sure.
And John, I think you hit on something. I was having that same conversation with somebody the other day over lunch, how a lot of the reason I feel like we don't see victory, for lack of a better term, in our churches in America anymore. And I speak to America because that's where I live. I know we got guys listening in other places in the world.
Sure.
I can't speak to where you guys are, but a lot of it is because we have forgotten that we are in a literal war.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And we're concerned about things that, we want to be excellent. We want to do things with excellence, but we're trying to take literal ground from real enemies.
True.
And we just don't think about that anymore, or really, there's two.
It changes your priorities when you do think about it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to be careful. You got to find that balance. I think C.S. Lewis talked about the importance of, recognizing the supernatural, but not seeing a demon under every rock.
Yeah. Right. You don't want to be so-called spiritually minded that you're no earthly good.
Right, yeah.
Right.
I tripped. Oh, the devil tripped me. Nah,
Exactly.
you just a fool, can't walk.
Exactly.
I mean, but so there's that balance, and I feel like we struggle with that. I think it's that
I think you're right.
Supernaturalization has hurt
True.
us.
Very true.
Yeah. Man, we kind of come to a little, let's switch gears. What do we want to switch gears to?
Well, he might have things to do.
Are you good on time? How you time looking?
I'm doing all right, man. You got anything else you want to talk about?
I will say
God
respects grappling.
Oh yeah,
and it's in the Bible.
God is the original submission grappler, as far as the scriptural record goes.
That's right. I mean,
not only was he the first submission grappler, he was the first leg locker.
That's right.
Pop that joker's hip out.
If you were one of those evil leg lockers like me, I'm just following the example that God set for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right.
Popping hips
Mm-hmm.
since BC 1.
BC.
Yeah, 10,000.
Hip locks are like the old school catch wrestling stuff too. Everybody goes after knees and ankles, but you go after hips. That's some old school stuff.
There you go. Exactly.
Catch wrestling. I'm actually kind of fascinated by catch wrestling.
Me too.
It's so nasty.
Yep, I'm a big fan of the CSW system, the catch wrestling system. I think it blends really, really well with my jiu-jitsu for sure.
Heck yeah. That's like there seems to be this odd thing that happens in the jiu-jitsu world or the martial arts world. It's seems to be a lot of very spiritual people that kind of connect into it. They're very much out there, like Eric Paulson, great martial artist, founder of CSW, kind of thing. But kind of, and he claims to be
unique worldview.
Exactly,
yes.
Very unique, weird.
Yes,
worldview.
I went to a couple of his seminars, and he's a unique dude.
It's a little odd,
just a little.
Yeah, like it and he'll say, "Oh yeah, I believe in Jesus, I believe in God," and then it's like, "Oh, I love this crystal because this is my." You're like, man, but I think that's something that
he's all about the chakras.
Yeah. Exactly. It's this weird thing that's happening in America, and I think in Western cultures, because I think, like you said, we've desupernaturalized the church and our world.
People are looking to fill that spiritual hole one way or another.
So they're
exactly.
Around.
And so they they bring it into talk about karma. They start bringing that Buddhist and Eastern philosophy into it. And when people, and I always mess with people online and stuff, especially my family and stuff, like, oh, karma. I'm like, you don't really understand karma if you're saying that, because karma is not about just oh, you get what you give kind of thing. Karma is like it's the weights and balances of your eternity and how you are rewarded and your reincarnation cycle and all these things. Like it's not just about,
and that takes it a lot in a much different direction than what the Bible teaches. Exactly. So like what we're talking about earlier, is like we said, it's not a replacement for the work of Christ.
Yeah.
It's not like this is how I save myself.
Yeah.
It's more in light of what Christ did for me. How do I then live?
Yeah. Yeah. And and that's the thing is, but it's really weird how people will try to bring that in, and you start seeing these Eastern philosophies come in and even with yoga. Like if people, I'm all, I don't know people's views on yoga. Anthony maybe have some yoga pants on right now. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
How'd you know, man?
I'm just guessing. Take a
they
wild guess.
Feel so good.
I mean, now that everybody's meeting by Zoom for all business meetings, I think everybody's wearing yoga pants now, right?
Exactly, yoga pants and drawers. That's it. I mean,
exactly.
But it's one of those things where
not together though.
Yeah, you don't. What? No, yeah. Never mind. I'm not gonna go there. Filter that one out. The filter caught that one again. Thank you, Jesus. I got to tell you a story, and I may put it on there. I don't know, but remind me to tell you a story about my son. Anyway, and so one of the things that's happening is even the church is bringing into its body yoga, like as a part of the programs of the church, and you go, man, why don't you go study what yoga actually is in its at its core and what it's made for and what it's done to represent before you start just Christianizing it. Because it's like going, I always think people, is Stephen Bankar is the guy that talks about the New Age movement a lot in church, and he was talking about what if we had, in the Bible it talks about the worshipers of Baal dancing, and we found this ancient text of Baal worshipers, like Baal worshipers dance moves. And so on Sunday night, we took all the spiritual stuff out of it, but now we're going to just be like, we're going to do Baal worshiping dance at night. And you go, can't you just dance? Can't you just do something like, instead of, bringing it underneath that idea of Baal or of yoga, like stretching.
Well, I think it depends on your intention. Like you said, like you don't have to add the spiritual aspect that you don't want to include in that, Like I said, you can dance without worshiping Baal,
Yeah. But the thing is that it's in the moves of yoga itself. And this is something we can get off into and we can pull stuff up and everything, but is in the actual moves of yoga, it is actually poses of worship. Like it's literally part to remembering the God, when the God of this did this, or when this God did that. It's a almost a sacrifice towards these gods that the practitioners would do. And so I go, that's what we talked about before, like the separating of physical and non-physical. It's really hard to do that. And so I always warn people about it. It's saying, man, if that's being pulled in, you're being pulled in that, man, take a hard look at that. Pray about that a lot, because it can open the doors to a lot of not so good stuff coming into your life. And so anyway.
Well, I've been told the same thing for many years, not as much recently, but certainly many, many times, about martial arts.
Yes.
That people didn't believe there was a way to separate Eastern mysticism from martial arts, which obviously I don't agree with it at all.
Yeah.
Now
the Brazilians did it.
Well, so I mean, I think it depends on the person to some degree. I firmly believe that all truth is of God, and that's something that C.S. Lewis talks about extensively. Even if it's coming from, a belief system that does not understand the things of God, when they get something right, I believe that is of God, that all truth by nature is of God.
Yeah.
So I think what you're talking about, I think it definitely depends on the person in terms of what are your strengths and weaknesses, spiritually speaking, what you are vulnerable to. So for example, I have a ton of alcoholism in my family background, in my lineage. So I don't drink, even though I don't believe there's anything in the Bible that says having a drink is immoral. I believe that drunkenness is immoral. But for me personally, I know that it would not be a smart decision to drink even a little bit.
Yeah.
So that would be just an example. Like, that's a decision that I make for my own spiritual health, not because like every single person that ever had a sip of wine is going to hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's one thing that look at least on the martial arts stuff is that you can't separate that. People would say that you can't separate it out. And there is some things that I go, it is when I used to do Aikido. I did Aikido for a long time.
I was about to say Aikido. There are certain arts where you really, they're very invested.
Oh yeah, it's very vested. So
Aikido doesn't work anyway.
Exactly. It's
let's be honest.
It's very purdy.
Now I will say this. Yeah. I will say this. There's two things I will say that I learned from Aikido that I found valuable. It has decent footwork on some of the movement, is decent, and I've been able to get out of a decent amount of positions using a couple wrist locks from it that I learned from it.
Well, I was going to say I actually did many years of Hapkido, which is obviously not the exact same thing, but
pretty close.
A little bit close. Yeah. And that is the one thing that I was like, all right, at least I got a good understanding of a lot of wrist lock stuff from
exactly.
it.
Yeah. That's one of the good things that we go, okay, you understand how the wrist moves, the joints. Okay, cool.
My roots are in judo and style of Japanese jiu-jitsu, very heavily on wrist locks. And that was one of the things that they, everywhere there's an arm bar, there's a wrist lock.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's
true.
Yep. But going back to the spiritual side of it,
you gotta meditate.
I actually I left my my Aikido club under that thing because there's an opening ceremony that happens before you start class, and it's this literal clapping ceremony that goes on. And I did it for years, and I realized, this is literally Shinto worship. Like literally, you're dispelling bad spirits, bringing bad spirits into the claps, and those kind of things. That went
right.
I can't do that.
Right.
And so,
but exactly what you're saying. I'm not going to say that every single person that ever trained Aikido is going to hell. Like that's probably not a great way to train it, but it doesn't mean that the entire art gets thrown out.
Yeah, exactly.
The bathwater. You know what I mean?
And I think it's the same thing with like yoga and stuff. Is I go, but the difference is I think with yoga and with martial arts is that the like if Aikido. Let's say take Aikido. Let's say Cody Geish was actually a movement that was used in a worship ritual or whatever. That's kind of a bad analogy, but it's the idea of the movements itself is not used in the part of worship. It's a martial art philosophy that brings into jiu-jitsu or brings in jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Whereas with
I think this is kind of tied in a way to some of what I've heard Christians talk about with the mark of the beast, because I know every once in a while I hear people talk about like, what if, this or that is the mark of the beast and you didn't even know it? Like, that's not how the mark of the beast works. Are you deliberately choosing to renounce your faith and turn your back on God? Like, exactly. You don't accidentally do, like, that's not how this works. So, like, same idea, like, the way I'm maybe a little bit more pragmatic in some of this stuff personally, but like, well, are you trying to worship a selection of Indian deities? Is that your intention right now? Well, no. Okay, then you're good. Now again, that's how I look at it.
Exactly, and that's the thing that
I'm like, I almost think it's like an excuse for some people. No, I'm not saying you specifically. I think for some people it's like an excuse, like, oh man, I accidentally got the mark of the beast. Like, no, you didn't. You do it or don't do it.
That's why we're both wearing hats, by the way.
Exactly. It's right here. It's in,
right. Like, you don't really accidentally. Yeah.
But the thing I will say,
but again, that's just my perspective.
Yeah, no, and that's good. It's good discussion. The thing that I would push back a little bit on is the idea of it's not like a saved or not saved kind of thing. It's the idea of opening the door to demonic and spiritual attacks that happens. And because some people will be like, I didn't know that, didn't study enough, and they're going out to their local yoga studio and they got a little idol set up there, whatever they're doing. They don't really know. But I would say, because I've seen it with some people that I've connected with, I've seen that influence happen. Is there's a lot of spiritual attacks that come in through that door. And so that's the kind of thing I always just warn Christians about is doing that. Like, if you want to stretch, there's 1,000,001 different ways to stretch, and go freaking get a stretch club. Y'all stretch, do some weird whatever. But in the setting of how it's set up through these motions is literally deity worship. And so I would just warn people about that and be very careful about that, because it could open doors to spiritual attacks that you don't want. And that's what I've just seen, especially here. I tell you how it talks about the connecting of physical and spiritual. That I used to live by the church. I lived in the church. I would go running every day. I would run up by the college, and there was this there's everywhere you go, there's Buddha statues everywhere. It's like
sure.
Yes, it's there. And every house has a spirit shrine in it. Every building has every office, every public building has a big Buddha shrine there as well. And so I was running by it every day, and I went, man, there's the people here stop and pray to this thing every single day. And these kids that going in there are bowing down to this thing. And if you believe, like Paul says, that behind these idols are spiritual things that give it power, that give it connection, that affects the spiritual world, like affects the physical world, like affects the spiritual world. And so that I was running by there, and so I was like, let me actually pray against it. Let me just pray against this thing, pray against anything that's coming in, that these kids will be able to hear the gospel kind of thing. And so I stopped and began to just pray against it. And man, I tell you, I've never had that much fear hit me at one time. It was like, immense fear just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. I was like, oh my! I literally had to start quoting scripture and walked off. I couldn't stay there. And so it was like this thing. I started realizing, like, man, there is this spiritual component to even these idols that are around there. And so even being this in the presence of it and trying to push against it, you're going to have this feedback, this fight back, this pushback against it. So anyway, we just want to say that, anybody that's in that, man, be very careful about it and pray about it and see kind of what God leads on it, because it can open doors that's can mess you up.
I think what you mentioned a minute ago about what Paul talking about the meat sacrifice idols is very relevant for sure. Yeah. It's not a simple, obvious answer to situations like that.
Yeah, it's hard, man.
Depends in a lot of ways.
It's one of those deals. It's interesting. I'm able to kind of sit and listen to both of the perspectives. On one hand, I feel like, John, I feel like in essence, if I'm understanding you correctly, is saying, the poses are very specific in nature, and you can't separate those poses from what they are representative of any more than you can take a swastika and make it your club symbol and say it just means happiness,
But the bad thing is that's what Nazis did.
I know they took it and turned it upside down.
They didn't invent that symbol. They just gave it a horrific implication.
Exactly.
Every culture, every pagan culture in the world had that symbol. But but at the same time, if I'm understanding Caleb, what he's saying is, it's one of those things that it's like Paul said, you work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And by that, we mean you take everything, you pass it through a filter of scripture. And, I think the meat sacrifice to idols, that's a really good analogy. There's certain things that are very obvious and very cut and dry. So we were talking about Halloween with Dr. Michael Heiser on our last episode. And, there are people that, in the church that, Halloween, you are not saved.
Yeah.
If you trick or treat,
Exactly,
if you trick or treat, you're not safe.
That's almost as bad as playing solitaire. Man.
I remember growing up, it was so funny growing up. It's like it was so confusing because one Halloween there would be like the strong conviction and my parents wouldn't let me trick or treat. And then in the next year, it'd be like, you're going as Batman this year. And then the next year, it's like nothing. It's like, Revival Man came to town.
Exactly.
So that's why I get trick or treat.
They hadn't quite made up their mind yet.
Yeah. And then the next year, it's like, I'm Superman, So it's
was like the Olympics, like every few years.
Exactly. Every fourth year.
Yeah.
You could go.
There's certain things that there's not easy answers.
No, it's not straightforward.
And that's in reality. That's part of what makes the true faith, alive. If you want something quote easy, an easy system, you need to pick paganism.
Right.
Leave it ever.
Nihilism.
We all gonna die anyway. Screw it.
Yeah.
It's
being
simple.
A Christ follower is not easy. It's a day-to-day, minute-by-minute.
No, you're right.
Process of and it's hard. It's really hard.
It's true.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Well, man, so going back, we're gonna switch gears a little bit. I enjoyed that little exchange. That was fun, man. That was good.
Yeah, for sure.
We gotta get some more people with some different ideas so we can just back and forth. That was fun. I didn't do that.
I enjoy it.
Where was I going? Oh, so you're a voice actor, and do you have any what's some of the books that you've done that we can check out, that people online can check? Caleb McAllister, reading them something.
Well, I do I've actually got like 8 or 10 different
women's
pseudonyms.
romance model.
Yeah, right. The funny thing is, most of what I do is sci-fi and fantasy, like swords and sorcery kind of things, or like science fiction type stuff.
Yeah.
Just because I enjoy it, and ever since Lord of the Rings, I've always been a fan, obviously.
All right.
But I also do actually some of my own work in like public domain titles, mostly because I enjoy it. So I did the Theodore Roosevelt 2 autobiographies that he wrote.
That's awesome.
And I'm not going to make as much from those because nobody's paying me to do it. I'm simply doing it out of my own, interest.
Yeah.
But if I want to read these anyway, why don't I create a production and then I'll make some money off of it?
So,
so I've done some that way.
Where can people pick that up?
Audible is where you get the most of them. I think it's Amazon.com or iTunes or any of those, but Audible is the vast majority of it.
So cool. So give us your top one your top public domain one you did on your own that you want people to go check out, that you just sounded like smoky cool and had fun reading.
Well, the public domain ones are all nonfiction because those are stuff that I want to read for my own. So I'm not getting quite as sultry on those as as on some of the other titles.
It can read some interest.
Right.
Yeah.
I did one. This was not one of the public domain ones. I did one that was probably 2 or 3 months ago that it was released, called Mid-lich Crisis, which was kind of a slightly tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic take on the fantasy genre.
Really?
That one was a lot of fun. It was a guy he's like an undead wizard who's trying to like kidnap his ex-wife or something. It was really funny.
That's all. What's the name of that one?
Mid-lich Crisis, LICH.
All right, cool. We're gonna put that.
It's an aging wizard who's dealing with some self-doubt. Put it that way.
That's gonna be all. I gotta check that out. I gotta find
that one was fun.
So like you like sci-fi and fantasy stuff. You like D&D, man? You like you ever game? You ever RPG, man? What do you
I have not done much tabletop stuff. My wife actually does. She has a group of friends from our church actually that she does some tabletop gaming with.
That's awesome.
Like either in person or on their computers when they, because most of them have little kids and everything. So depends on the week whether they can get childcare or not. But
I understand.
I have not done as much the tabletop gaming. I've done some of the the MMORPG type stuff.
Yeah. But man, tabletop game is so much fun, man. Like this, it is so fun. I love it.
I would like to get into it at some point, but it's limited time, as you can imagine.
Yeah. When you get a chance to join with your wife, go do that, man. Because
I'm gonna have to do that.
There's I rarely play, but there's one guy I play with in Mississippi. Like anytime we go back, we always run a game, and it is like the most fun. I love it. It's just like 5 hours of just hanging out with your friends and just. And
I know I've heard her use the term Pathfinder. I think that's the name of the one that they've been doing. Yeah,
that's the guys from D&D that started D&D. I think I can't remember the company, but when D&D started changing its rules, and everybody's like, "Man, this sucks," and they were like, "No, we're going back to the original," and so they kind of broke away and actually and started making Pathfinder.
That's why a more liked version.
I'm curious what kind of rule changes they would make in D&D to make people flee.
It was a lot of like how the hits work and how the rolls work, and it's just a lot of stuff like that.
I saw something the other day that people were mad that sorcerers use charisma or something like that.
Yeah. So. It's a lot of like. I mean, you got to be.
So they have televangelists.
something like that.
Exactly. It's like they're not actually doing anything. They just make you think they're doing it.
Exactly.
Sorry, not sorry.
He's just so charming. What's that mega church pastor? Joel Osteen.
Oh, Joel Osteen. Yeah, he's just there he goes.
Yeah.
Fire. Shay.
There you go. That's good.
Put him right there. We're gonna put his picture right there.
Little Smiley Joe. Little Smiley Joe right there.
In his Bugatti or whatever it is.
Yeah. But
there's nothing wrong with being a motivational speaker, but don't tell me you're a pastor if you're really just a motivational speaker. Exactly. There's a difference here.
Exactly. That's one thing, that we kind of go back to that out of the church is people have gotten away from wanting to hear what the Word of God says and wants to, like the Bible says, have tickling ears.
Almost like somebody wrote that was going to happen.
Exactly. And they want to just hear what they want to hear and have a feel good kind of thing. And like
Alistair Begg is one of my favorites. I listen to him pretty regularly because I feel like he's one of the few that's still pretty scripturally based,
Oh, heck yeah. I love Alistair Begg, man. I just like hearing his accent. I like to hear
I said the accent definitely doesn't hurt, that's for sure.
This helps. I love listening to stuff, man. Him, John MacArthur. I mean, I like listening to his stuff. I like listening to his reading his books and stuff like that. It's all good stuff. Matt Chandler is another guy I love. Just listening to his sermons and stuff like that. Man.
The late great Adrian Rogers.
Oh yeah, he was fantastic.
This is a good one that I love
a
lot.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of good. We need to do an episode where we're just like pastor superstar edition, like or just who wanna
like our fantasy league.
I would say fantasy. Yeah, I think
exactly.
I think I've seen something like that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that'd be really great. We should do that.
Well, guys, Caleb, thanks for coming on, man. And
absolutely, thank you for having me. I had a great time,
you, man. And man, we were praying for you. I mean, we can't wait to watch you in December and watch you slap some people around.
I hope I don't get slapped too hard.
Slapskiving.
Yes,
exactly.
Exactly.
Can't wait.
I'm excited, man.
He'll hook some guys for me, man. Just to be like, this.
I will do my best.
Yeah, just be like, oh,
take some legs home with me.
Exactly, take some legs home, but like, this is for the guy stuff, guys.
I'll give you guys.
We need to come up with like some sort of theme, like so he, you know what I'm saying, like some sort of like
gesture, like
a Freemason. Sign the leg, like to the guy stuff crew.
Exactly.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, brother, man. God bless you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Likewise, you, brother. Look forward to seeing you again one of these days when you're in the States again.
If we ever get the stupid Corona stuff out of the way, man.
I know.
Get over there, man. We supposed to have been there
someday
this month. We supposed to have been there and like that ain't happening. So anyway,
hopefully not too much longer.
Yeah.
Get the vaccines straight and whatnot.
I ain't taking the vaccine anyway.
Yeah, but at least people won't be as scared then.
That's true, man. That's true. All right, take us out, Anthony. Sorry, man.
I'm gonna take us out so this guy can go pick apples and pumpkins. Well, guys, thanks again for hanging out with us and Caleb. I hope you were edified in some way, challenged maybe. I can see some of you big fat guys doing yoga out there being convicted right now. But thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again next time on the Guy Stuff podcast. Peace.
Thank you.